My life has been a weird roller coaster. Let's be honest, my life has been a weird roller coaster for like 9 months. Really, it's some days it's great, some days it's fucking frustrating and weird. And the internet is like this miasma background effect. I don't want to point out, or I don't want to paint it as the internet is like the main thing. The internet is this nudge on your real life. The internet is a nudge on your real life. Your real life is a thing that happens, and there's nothing you can do about it. The internet is a pretend thing that happens, but the internet has influence on your real life, and it cannot control it, but it can nudge it. It can lean it in one direction or the other. And the past 9 months have been this roller coaster of nudging in one direction or another with various people in my real life. And it's like, well, you know me though. Like, you know me. And so some things are negative, some things are positive. People say good and bad things on the internet, and then people in real life say good or bad things, and they react to them in certain ways. And then the good people in your life, they know you, and they kind of ignore the crazier stuff on the internet because they go, wait, what about this? And you go, you know me. Is that real? Like, do you honestly think I have time for this? Do you honestly think I do this? And most of them, no, obviously. And I have lost, I want to be very clear. I've lost 0 friends. I've had 0 like disconnections or distancings from the internet. Things that you would expect people in your life to maybe question because the internet's weird and comes up with some crazy stuff. And you'd think maybe the people in your life would go like, oh, well, that they actually haven't ever done that. Haven't ever done that. Doc Dangerously says, I just assume all the rumors are true and I don't care. For the purpose of the internet, rumors are always true. You can't fight them. You can't overturn them. There's no amount of evidence you can provide. There's no amount of thing you can say to make a rumor untrue. People either believe it or disbelieve it. So you just go ahead and say, well, they're all true. It's fine. But the people in your life who are not internet people, but they know you, occasionally they'll come across like a rumor or a thing, and they may ask you about it. Most of them don't. I want to be very clear about this. Most of them don't ask you about it. They don't know. They don't care. But even if they do, you go, well, you know who I am. Like, you actually know me. I tell jokes. I laugh and stuff like this. Reaverton says it's sex toy or religious talk. You can't have both. You absolutely can. This is such a weird thing. First of all, sex and sex toys within the context of a marriage are not anti-religious or anti-faith in any way. And all of the shit I've said about like stodgy people and fucking weirdos who get so wound up about that, like all of my stories, all of my silliness, they're all in context of being exclusive and being monogamous with lady rackets. And people have tried to make that into something it isn't, and I don't know what to tell them. But it's just not. It's not a thing. So like the reason I talked about any of this stuff last year mostly is because I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people get away from their fucking barriers. And there's so many people online talking about marriage as this prison of and they talk about it in a positive way as a prison sometimes, but it's this prison where you no longer get to be your fun-loving self. You no longer get to explore anything. You no longer get to do anything. That's not true. Marriage is this opportunity to do things with your partner, to explore with your best friend and your best partner, this part of your lives that normally is kind of stilted and like people who go out and pick up strangers or have one night stands, you never have the level of relationship and intimacy that can build on the physical carnality of a sexual relationship. Your partner can. That's what a marriage brings you, this opportunity to have trust and fidelity with a person, to also then explore like all this silly stuff. And as long as you do it within your moral boundaries, you're monogamous. You're with each other. There's consent. There's love. There's affirmation. All those great things that really build out a relationship. And they are all great. Make no mistake. But as long as you're doing that, like you can go do the craziest shit on the planet because you're monogamous, because you are honoring your relationship and honoring your partner. Like you go explore it and have fun. And I talked about that to try and counter this weird narrative that's going on online, that if you're going to be like red pill or whatever, you can't do, like you have to have this very limited view of sex, sexuality, and relationship that involves you marrying a young girl, pumping 10 conservative babies into her, and being a chat online about it, which is not how life is going to work for most people. Even if that's your goal, it's not going to work out that way. I'm sorry. And you're going to be confronted with several realities. That was my mild pushback against it. People got really fucking mad about that. And I'm like, guys, I'm trying to tell you how you explore life and relationship with a person, specifically with a person. And for me, it was a person I've been married to for, at the time, like 18 years. Now it's 19 years. And like, we have so much more life to deal with. We have so much more of each other to learn about, unlearn, and relearn. And it's like, these are things I want to talk about because no one else is. No one else will talk about this shit. No one else will be honest about relationships. They all want to like delineate it into hoes versus saints that you marry. They all want to delineate it into these like arbitrary contraptions like body count or whatever. And they want to ignore the practicalities of life, which says you have no idea who you're going to meet, why you're going to meet them, what's going to make you guys become compatible or become partners. I stopped talking about it a lot because it made people uncomfortable or whatever. It never made me uncomfortable. I think talking about it is important. Personally, I think it's critical, and I think that churches are very dishonest when they talk about sexuality within relationships because they don't want to give permission to people to have fun, in the fear that they'll take that outside of relationships. And I think that's a bad fear for churches to have, but that's how I think they treat it. But again, I've never sold myself as an authority on any of this. I largely removed it from the main show. Some people who have clipped this channel have tried to frame shit from locals where I talk with my community in a very candid and open way about who I am. They've tried to like just go ahead and slip that in as if that's the main show or as if that's part of the YouTube show when it has not been. It is most of these things I will talk about on locals for sure. But when you go to a certain place that is not my channel, but someone else's channel, and they take content from both my YouTube Rumble channels and then my locals channel, which is completely different, and you take that and you don't delineate or make a distinction between them, you just try and act like it's the same thing. Well, people get the wrong impression. They go, "Oh, he's talking about this all the time." They go about, "He's talking about this. He's doing this thing, degeneracy, degeneracy." It's like, well, no. This a lot of times questions come up in locals that I'm answering or responding to, like he's talking about this. Like that wasn't my intention. I'm going to talk about stuff. It's a thing. But look, if you have some problem with how I've talked about whatever, great. I don't know how to fix that. What I can say is very simple. Everything I've ever talked about in regards to sex, sexuality, and relationships comes from two places. One, my context is a married man who's been married to the woman I idolize and worship in a lot of ways for 19 years. I've been in a relationship with her for 20 years, but we've been married for 19. And I'm constantly in awe that I have her. The other context, though, is that in the past year and a half, my life has gone from the life of a conservative, because other people I've always been a libertarian, but a traditional Christian father, in the sense that I was always home and dealing with kids who were too young to leave even for like overnights or a couple days, to having kids who are now old enough to stay with grandparents things like that for a couple days at a time while Lady Rackets and I go do other things. And I've told some funny stories about occasional activities we've done and anecdotes, which I think are funny. I think they're great. They're always done, though, in the context of we are married to each other and we are committed to each other. We are not, and that's part of the funny aspects of the story to me, is that some people try and do stuff to us because they don't know. Like they'll run into Lady Rackets when we're at a place and she's coming out of like a bathroom. Well, I'm not in the bathroom with her, right? So she's coming out of the bathroom. They see this gorgeous woman. They go up and talk to her. And she's like, well, my husband's over there. And then they'll come over and we'll like laugh. And it's great. We have a good, no one's been rude or impolite to her. Or then I'll be out and I will buy drinks for everybody at bars because I don't want to sit in a line. So I will go to the front, and whoever's at the front of the line, I'll buy their drinks and then I'll buy my drinks so they don't have to sit in line. That ends up with me meeting people. It ends up with me talking to people and having good conversations. Now I have a naturally flirty way of talking to people, especially in person. I always have. I'm just I'm a guy who likes to ingratiate himself into a group or with another person, build rapport very quickly. And so sometimes my conversation can be very flirty, and occasionally that will lead to a missed signal from people. And I try to laugh it off. Like I don't, because I don't mean anything by it. And I'm always flattered when people get that conclusion, but it's not my intention. I just talk to people the way I talk to everybody, and they do that. So I share those stories though, because I think they're important to realize. Like, one, you get married, and when Lady Raggets were in college, and I were in college, we acted a certain way. We started a family, and we were always home. We were always with the kids, and you act a certain way. Now the kids are old enough to stay with relatives and stuff, and in a weird way, we sometimes go back to how we acted in college. Not the full way, right? Like we're adults, we're way different now, but we just go and we'll go out to a bar or a club and we'll have drinks and we'll talk to people and everything's okay. But at the end of the day, it's always us. It's not anybody else. But people try to make it more than us. They do. And so those are the things, like I sometimes talk about that, mainly because people are like, you're not out there, you don't know what it's like. It's like, well, I mean, in a way, like I don't go on Tinder for sure, but do I go to clubs and talk to people? Yes. Do people try and hook up with me and or Lady Rackets? Yes, they do. We turn them down very politely, but like they do that. So I actually I want to counter this weird red pill narrative because I do have insight on how you talk to people. I do have insight on what things work in human uh, communication. And people want to just shut it out. And it's like, you can't go listening to these red pill guys. They're fucking crazy. They're literally insane. How they deal with people is insane. How they talk about women and to women is insane. And what they expect from them, what they're selling you on how they work is insane. That's not how people act. It's not how people are. It's not how women grow and evolve and all of that stuff through all of their years of changes. I mean, if you're gonna grab a woman who's 22 and pump 10 conservative babies into her, you got some realities that are coming that the red pill guys don't talk about. Skull Eater says, but does it get results though? I mean, again, I don't take people home, Skull Eater. Have I had the opportunity to take people home? Absolutely. To a much higher degree than I ever thought possible. But I don't do it. Does it get results? Yeah, sure. It's really easy to go and compliment people on the right things and have them respond to what you compliment on. But why even be in the situation in the first place? What's the upside? You mean like why go out with your friends to a bar and like do karaoke and have drinks and have a good time? Because it's fun. The fact that incidentally people try to pick you up, who cares? Like this is not a problem. I don't understand why people think this is a bad thing. Again, it's not like you're going out to pick people up. You go out and people try to pick you up. You go out and you socialize with your friends, your spouse. You go dance. Like if you want to go dancing, where do you go dancing? Go somewhere with dance floor music. If you want to go do karaoke, where do you do karaoke? You can't just like, you can do some of this stuff at home, but it's not the same. So you go out. You go out for dinner sometimes, right? You can eat at home, but you go out for dinner because they have different food. It's like, and then people try to pick you up or pick up your spouse, and they're respectful. Like, who fucking cares? Thing is, when like Lady Raggeds goes to the bathroom and she comes out, and somebody like stops her and tries to pick her up, and she says, "Yeah, my husband's right over there." She says it with a smile. The person will look over at me, smile, they'll do like a "what's up" thing, and they'll typically come over and say, "Hey, I didn't mean anything. Your wife's beautiful. She's great." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I married her. She's awesome." And they're like, I didn't mean." And I'll go, "Dude, if I saw her coming out of the bathroom alone, I would try and pick her up too. She's my wife. I find her very hot. So I'm not gonna like blame you for that. You didn't know. You just saw a pretty person and you went in to talk to him. Same thing that anybody would do at a bar." Um, the overwhelming majority of people have been very cool and very relaxed about this stuff, and it's fine. But, we go out with friends who are single. Some of them want to pick up people. We go out with friends who are married. We just want to go dance or maybe have some drinks. This isn't a weird thing. And the fact that people have made this a weird thing is strange to me. But like, this is the part of the internet. It's the inconsistency. That's about. It's not inconsistent. What is inconsistent about going out with your spouse? It's so fucking weird. People have this weird idea, and I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the inconsistency they perceive is, but it's always based on something I've never understood. Again, I am monogamous with Lady Rackets. She's monogamous with me. We're our only people. We have been for 19 years. We were virgins when we met. It's just us. We go out. We have fun at a dance club or something. We go out to a beach or a pool, and we go and like we'll occasionally talk to other people who are there. Sure, you're out to talk to people. We don't lead them on. We don't try to we don't try to get them. We don't try to do anything with them. Some people do to us, and we're very upfront. We're not into that. We're not into that. Thank you. Very flattering. We just we just are out dancing. We're just out having drinks. We're just out for karaoke. Whatever we're out for. We're out with friends. Go pick up our friends. Our friends are super single. Go. I'll wingman for people all the time. But it's like, it's very flattering. It's very nice, but we're not into that. How is that inconsistent? I don't get it. You're married. It does not mean you're dead. It does not mean you can't go out. It does not mean you can't go like to a dance party. You can't go have fun. And you can't go do crazy shit. I've talked about crazy shit that we've done together too. Absolutely. But we've always done it together. We've always done it with the idea that we are monogamous and with each other, and we're not with anybody else. We've always adhered to that. Why is that hard for people to understand? You don't have to do everything we've done, certainly. But your marriage is not a death contract. It is not a death contract. You do not have to. You do not have to become these weird husks that online meme factories want married people or conservative people to be. You're not that. You won't be. You're human. You're human. It'd be confusing my critiques for others because I didn't say you aren't monogamous. I wouldn't say anything like that. Ooh, it's hard for me to follow, dude, because like I only get random comments that I see online, but I see these comments about me all the time from other people. I just want you to know, like Reverton, I don't know where the inconsistency or hypocrisy that people talks about comes from, other than people have spun a narrative about me and Lady Rackets, which is mostly my fault. I'll take the blame. I've talked about some activities that we've done that are risque. They're things that not every person would do. They're things that we wouldn't have thought about doing 10 years ago when we had young kids and we're still having kids. I get it. All right. But the reason I talk about them is because every one of those things is an opportunity for someone who is in a marriage, who is in a relationship, to explore something different. And I think so many people have gone to this place where you can't be you. And we've all done it. I shouldn't say so many people, we've all done it. So many people go into a marriage. They meet someone in college or their early work years. They go into a marriage. They're these crazy wild people, right? That's how they met. They met at some party. They're both naked, like running through some jello. I don't know what they're doing. They're doing this thing, and they go to these crazy events together. They have like wild premarital sex. They have all this stuff, and then they get married, and they're supposed to be completely different people because some religion or some tradition tells them they have to be completely different. And they get themselves in this mindset, and they do that, and then they're miserable. Now, some of the shit you do in college or whatever is impractical to do when you have kids because you can't just leave. Like you have a 1-year-old, you can't just leave for a week. That's traumatic for the 1-year-old. You don't want to do that. Um, you have to find people who they trust to be with, and 1-year-old is just a little young for a week, maybe a day, maybe an overnight or something. But there are different stages of permanence that kids go through that you can go longer and longer. Eventually, like for Lady Rackets and I, our youngest is 6. 6 years old is pretty capable of dealing with permanence issues. The abstracts of a parent leaving and coming back, all of that is fine for them. They know, and especially if they're with a trusted person, like my parents or her parents, they know we're coming back. They know they're safe. All of that stuff, that's critical to us. But we get to go back and do some of the things that we did in college that were like, they're goofy and silly, but they're always us. And and people have taken that in a wrong way because maybe they're not in the same point of life. Maybe they've never had kids. Maybe they've never been married and they have an idea of how life will treat you. I can guarantee you the way you think like life will treat you, your marriage, whatever is wrong. You won't get that. You will not get this ideal life that you think you'll always have. And that's what I'm here to talk to people about in some capacity because I have that experience. I have that experience of being college me, of being conservative trad dad me, which was literally just making sure our children were psychologically sound as much as possible. And then being in a place where we could physically afford and also mentally afford to go on some vacations, to do some silly stuff together and have fun. And to always do so with consent, love, and respect for each other, and no other people being involved. Like that's just what we did. And so like I told these stories because I thought they would help people, and I think they did. I think they did help a lot of people. I got so many emails from people saying they did, but so many people also like hated them or came out against them. They mischaracterized and misinterpreted them, and I was like, how did you do this? How did you fucking misinterpret these things that were very straightforward? And the only conclusion I can come to is because they wanted to. They needed someone to be broken. They needed someone to be a mess. Riverton says, "I'm not trolling. I'm just all about the theology talk. Always have it. That's great. Even if you're all about the theology talk, I still don't see why it's inconsistent or hypocritical. And I will never, again, I will never claim to be an authority on theology, but I just don't see God saying, yeah, you can't explore sex and sexuality with your partner. I think it's weird. And I don't want a religion that says that. And so many try to, don't get me wrong, so many try to say that. I won't subscribe to that notion. And I will be the person, if I can, to get people to not ever do that.